field or the industry or the job, the company. You've gone through the company's website. Which of our ongoing projects are you most interested in contributing to and how? All right, so you should have a clear picture of what is there on the company's website, like we discussed initially while talking about doing research about the company. We discussed that, right? And what are behavioral questions? Any idea? You can also type it out. Somebody says hobbies. What is a behavioral question? What is the aim of behavioral questions? So the aim of behavioral questions is to understand how the candidate performed in specific situations. So the idea is that, or the logic is that, the logic is based on the principle that your past performance predicts future behavior. That is, how the candidate behaved in the past is going to indicate how he or she will behave in the future. Did you get me? So the interviewer, instead of asking questions like how you would handle a hypothetical situation, you will be asked like how did you handle a particular situation in the past, right? So behavioral questions usually tend to be pointed, very specific, because they really want to know your past, like how you handled a situation in the past. Okay, so not that they will ask questions like how are you going to handle the situation, not really, but how you handled it in the past. Okay, so that is going to give them an idea that how you will behave in the future. All right, so in such cases, if you get a behavioral question, you can usually use the STAR technique. So usually STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. What is a STAR technique? Any idea? How would you answer to behavioral question? You can use STAR technique. You can craft your responses using STAR technique. But what is STAR technique? So it's basically a structured manner of responding to a behavioral based interview question, wherein you are going to discuss a specific situation, the task, action, and result of the situation that you are describing. I'll discuss this in detail. So situation, what is situation? So in this, you are explaining a challenge or situation that you faced. So situation is wherein you share the context around the situation or the challenge that you faced. For example, in my last role as a lead designer, my team was short-staffed and facing a significant backlog of work. The account managers were setting tough deadlines, which was causing stress for my team and affecting morale. So, this was a challenge that you faced in the past. Okay, so you are sharing that context of that situation or the challenge. Okay, now what is task? In task, you describe your responsibility or your role in the situation or challenge. Yeah, so you are basically describing your role in the situation of challenge. To give an example, as a team leader, It was my role not only to ensure my team met our deadlines, but also to communicate bandwidth to other departments and keep my team motivated. Okay, so you have the situation where you explain the challenge, you have the task where you are describing your role in the situation of challenge. Now, what comes next? Action, wherein you explain how you handled that particular situation or how you overcame the challenge. Okay, now if suppose if the action was carried out by a team, you can specify your efforts in overcoming that challenge. Okay, what kind of efforts did you put in to handle that situation? All right, for example, I set up a format creative request process, including project timeline estimates to set better expectations. I scheduled weekly meetings with account managers to discuss my team's bandwidth and share progress updates. So this is the action. Now what is result? Result is wherein you present the outcome you reach through your actions. Yeah. So you are going to give details about the outcome you reached with your actions. For example, by providing more transparency into my team's processes and setting better expectations with the account managers, we were able to reprioritize the design team's to do list and complete everything in our backlog. The following quarter, we shortened our average project timeline by 2 days. Did you understand this whole point? The STAR technique: situation, task, action, and result. When you are um, using STAR technique, you can also give real life examples to give very clear and concise answers. So when you are asked a behavioral question, you can actually formulate your answers using these 4 steps. Did you get me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Some general tips that you may consider. Yeah, you can use, as I said, some real life examples, and stay concise, stay on topic instead of getting sidetracked. You should also have a conclusion, like the outcome, basically the result. Yeah, and make it resonate in such a way that it should touch upon why this kind of behavior or response is going to be useful to the employer or to the job position that you are applying for. Okay, so make it resonate in that way. Okay, now there's a small activity which you may do. You have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from a technical institute in India and have also pursued a research internship in Denmark. You've worked for 2 years after your bachelor's at a company as a software developer. You are now looking to get into core data science. How would you answer the question? Tell me about yourself. So, this is a hint for you. Use everything you've done in your past to create a narrative. Yeah. And then, your narrative should be in such a way that it should lead to the company that you've applied to. So, you may use that present, past, future formula. Okay, take some time and some of you please answer me. You can take some time, and once you're ready, you can just drop in a message. Is anybody ready? Feroz, Gaurav, you can just use the past, present, future formula to answer this question. This is a simple activity and it should not take more than 1 minute. Is anybody ready? At least one person based on our discussion so far?
Ma'am, may I try?
Should.
Okay. Um, First, I will say good morning or good evening, sir and ma'am. I am Purva Chaudhuri. I have passed my electrical engineering, electrical. I have passed electrical engineering uh,
Mm-hmm,
in 2017 from Narula Institute of Technology. After that, I pursued a research internship in Denmark. Then I have worked for two
mm-hmm,
years in a software company as a
mm-hmm,
software developer.
mm-hmm,
Uh, Now I want to make my career in core data science domain, and
mm-hmm.
mm, uh, after that, I will say like that's why I'm looking for a new job or internship.
Mm-hmm. All right, good. So, listen, you also have to, give a little bit information about your skills that you gained at the previous position. Okay,
Okay,
when you're trying to answer this question, and why you are really excited for this particular job, and how your past experiences are going to help you in this current job position. Okay, so
okay,
frame it in that way. All right, yeah,
okay,
this is a good try.
okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, okay, so this is a simple sample that I would like to show you. I'll just read it out for you. My name is Jennifer Smith. I graduated from Swansea University with a degree in women's studies. I started at ABC, whichever university it is, with a major in biology, thinking I was going to pursue a career in environmental protection. But then I realized that I was more interested in environmental policy rather than scientific aspect. Then I took an elective in women's studies, women's rights, and a light went on for me. I'd always supported women's rights and I was amazed that it continues to be an issue in this day and age. Since that time, I've been able to volunteer and work on behalf of women's rights, both for abused women and as well as homeless women. I'm here today because I believe my demonstrated passion for women's rights as well as my experience in non-profit organizations will be beneficial to your organization. Does it sound organized? Doesn't it sound organized? In fact, she has talked about her past experiences, her background details, and how her past experiences are going to help her in this position. Yeah, so you can actually take 1 to 2 minutes for introducing yourself when you're asked such questions. You can give a small background of your academic or work experiences, Also, why you are there and what you can bring to the job. This is what your employer would be looking forward to. Okay, and you need ample amount of practice. Yeah. Okay. So, what is a cover letter? What is a cover letter? Gaurav, Jivraj. All right. So, a cover letter is an introductory letter that informs the prospective employer about your qualifications, how you can meet their job requirements, and why you hope to work with them. So basically, a cover letter must have why you think you are the perfect candidate for the job, and secondly, why you are so passionate about the company you are applying to. So it should have a heading, a salutation, then it should have an introduction in which you could mention where you found this job posting, right? And how you can be a good fit for the job. In that, you could explain, I mean, you can mention your qualifications, your relevant skills and experience. Always try to make it concise and to the point, be specific about it. Now, why you are interested in this job? What is your future plans, your long-term goals, and how is it going to align with the company's values? And then you should have a conclusion. I'll show you a sample cover letter for you. Um, so if we can see here, this is a cover letter, general cover letter. On the right hand side, you can see the address um, of the person applying for the job, and on the left hand side, date, and then the salutation, dear Miss Doe. I was excited to see your job listing for the senior digital marketing position at Westward Strategies on Indeed.com. So here the person has mentioned where he or she found this job posting. Yeah. As a dynamic email marketing specialist with over 2 years of professional experience executing market research, analyzing consumer data, and running A/B tests to drive successful marketing campaigns. I'm confident that I would be a valuable asset to the team at Westward. So she is trying to showcase her abilities and why she thinks is a um, ideal candidate for this job. Your job listing mentions a need for someone who is experienced in email segmentation and campaign development, both of which are areas I have extensive experience in. So here she is identifying the need of the company, and she is trying to say that she can be a best candidate. She can be the best candidate to fill that need. I am currently employed at Marketed Inc., where I have honed my skills by running numerous successful email marketing campaigns. So here again, she is showcasing her skills. Yeah. While employed here, I was spearheaded a digital promotion campaign for the company's new line of sandals that successfully raised our total online engagement by an impressive 13% over the course of 6 months, contributing substantially to the department's annual calls. So she's also mentioned the her recent achievements. Yeah, I'm confident. Now, this is a concluding line where she's talking about I'm confident that my proven track record of excellent work ethic, unparalleled attention to detail, and high performing email marketing campaigns will make me an immediate asset at Westward Strategies and allows me to contribute to the team's success. I look forward to discussing the senior digital marketing position and my qualifications with you in more detail. I'm available to talk at your convenience. I'll be in touch next week to follow up and to make sure you have received my application. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. So this is a well organized cover letter. So this has all the details of, see, an introduction and the qualifications, relevant skills, experience, and why the person is interested in this job, and uh, and its alignment with the company's values, her skills in alignment with the company's values. So this is something that is a kind of sample that you can follow. All right. Now, the next important thing is to prepare questions to ask the interviewers. So in most interviews, you will be faced with this question like, so do you have any questions for me? Right? At the end of the interview, you will get questions like, do you have any questions for me to ask? So you have to prepare some smart questions beforehand to ask them, and the questions that you frame should be specific to the current job position, or the job position that you've applied for. Okay. So what kind of questions can you ask, and what kind of questions you should avoid? Yeah. So how do you approach this part of interview? Anybody else? So always understand that, or consider that this part of interview is a chance for you to assess the organization and whether you really want to work there. So you could ask questions about, specific. You can ask specific questions about the job. You could ask questions about the team, the company. Like, you can ask questions about the company. For example, you could ask, how has the company changed over the last few years? Also, you could ask questions about the work culture there. Do you do joint events with other departments? You could also ask questions about the development, career paths, your future opportunities that the company might offer. Yeah. So you could ask questions like, what are the common career paths in this department or in this company? Yeah. So let's look at some of the questions. What would a typical day for someone in my role look like? How many employees work in this department? What are the opportunities for cross departmental progression? What is the most rewarding aspect of your job here? What are the opportunities for my career progression 2 years hence? But you may ask these questions, but you should avoid asking certain questions like some premature questions like salary, perks, benefits. Yeah. Um, and you should also not ask questions which have obvious answers. All right. Now, the next part of it is practice. Now, write down all your answers. You can also have a cheat sheet, right? Cheat sheet is like, a set of notes which you can use for quick reference. Yeah. Always make sure that you practice before you appear for the interview. Practice it as many times as you can. Practice it until you feel comfortable about answering questions. Yeah. Practice it with a friend of yours. Yeah. But do not memorize. You should also be familiar with your non-verbal communication habits, because during your interview, your employer will also pay attention. In addition to your answers, the employer is also going to pay attention to your non-verbal cues while answering questions. Like, for example, if you tap your foot while talking, that shows that you're nervous. You should always check your body language and your pace of speech, and avoid things like nail biting, hair twisting, finger drumming. Yeah, and also try to avoid or try to minimize the use of fillers like or so these are filler words that you can avoid. But how do you avoid all these? I mean, how can you do all these things? Like practice will really help you get there. All right, and also you should have uh, when you're answering questions, you should be polite enough. You should have a positive attitude, and most importantly, you should be honest while answering the questions. Be truthful and also be an active listener. All right. So you're the most of the time the first question that you get is to tell about yourself. So that is the best time, where you can actually make a good impression. Okay, so you need to practice tell about yourself, that section very well. You have to practice it very well so that you know that first impression is something that you can that will really help you there. Okay, and also during the interview, there are certain things you should remember. The first is dress appropriately, match your attire to the type and style of organization, enunciate slowly, clearly, and with adequate volume. Speak in a conversational manner. All right. So this is really important, to speak in a conversational manner because this is kind of an interaction with your employer, right? So it shouldn't be like very formal. It should be kind of engaging with your employer, right? Also, with respect to body language, do not slouch, rather sit straight and always give eye contact to your interviewer. Do not avoid eye contact or dart around restlessly. And sometimes you may not be able to answer certain questions. In such cases, you can just drop the thought and just move on. All right? Yes. During the interview, do not present yourself with low energy at the same time, shouldn't be hyperactive. Yeah. And avoid vagueness in your answers, or sometimes, you might tend to be very specific about certain answers, but avoid too many details because that can also ruin the answer. The next point is do not stay disinterested or desperate. Do not feel underconfident or don't be arrogant. All right. And do not undersell yourself by not presenting your achievements and skills. At the same time, you shouldn't oversell yourself. How do you oversell yourself? Sometimes you tend to add extra details or you tend to embellish your achievements. Certain things, you tend to add certain details which are untrue. So that something that you should avoid. So undersell, do not undersell yourself. At the same time, do not oversell yourself. All right. Yes. So these are some tips that I want to tell you. If you're asked to describe a weakness, somebody was asking me this question, right? You need to mention lessons that you learned from your past experiences and steer away from negative descriptions. So I'll just give you a small example, a sample. Yeah. One area that challenges me is that of delegating. It's hard for me to delegate to other people, whether it be a team project for school or on the baseball field. I know this is a problem. So I have trained myself to make a list of those things I have to do myself and those things that can be passed on. It's still not easy for me, but I have found that when I consciously make that determination, I actually get more done and the quality is better. So she has actually pointed out her weakness, but she is also, at the same time, she is also saying that she is flexible or she is determined to work on it to make it better. So, this is how you explain your weakness. You may describe your weakness, but at the same time, you should also show your employer that you are trying to overcome that to make it better. Okay, this is how you should explain your weakness. So basically, you should focus on experiences that demonstrate flexibility, adaptability, responsibility, progress, achievement, creativity, initiative, and leadership. So your employer should know that you are flexible enough. All right. Yes. Now, when you're asked about your strengths, you could say, my interpersonal skills probably top the chart of my strengths. I thrive on approaching people I do not know and quickly establishing rapport. I think I can think on my feet and I manage stress well. This is one way you could explain your strength. How would your friends describe you? My friends would describe me as helpful and communicative. I don't really enjoy idle time. So when a friend needs help with something, I jump at chance for activity. I'm open to interactions with my friends. I've been able to avoid a lot of conflict by having frank conversations before things come to a head. So when the employer asks you questions like how would your friends describe you, they are trying to get answers from you like basically they're trying to get what your strengths are. All right. Now if you get a question like, where do you want to be in 5 years? You could say, simply put, my ideal job at this stage in my career is one in which I can learn the products and industry and I can contribute to your success. Eventually, I would like to I would like a job that gives me control over my day, but I know I'm not in that position right now and it will take some time to get there. Maybe. So, okay, if you get a question like, tell me about a time when you failed, what is that employer trying to get? So he or she is trying to see how you are going to handle a situation, especially when you make a mistake. All right. So when you could just explain it based on your past experience. Maybe. So when I was a freshman, I had a great on-campus job, probably one of the best. Unfortunately, I didn't take it seriously. I showed up late, not properly dressed, and probably showed some attitude. What a shock when I wasn't hired back the next year. It forced me to take a good hard look at myself and where I was headed. I made the conscious decision to turn my grades and attitude around. I soon discovered that it felt good to do good and everything was on the upswing from there. I was young, but I was able to turn myself around. So here he or she explains that so there was a time when he or she failed, but he tried to make it better. Okay, so be sure to include if you get a question like this, be sure to include the situation, the obstacles that you faced, and the result of like what you actually learned out of that situation. All right, three things, 3 points, so that it sounds very organized. Okay. Why should I hire you over the next person? What is the intention of this question? This is the opportunity to remind them why you are unique and the best person for the job. So, this is the best opportunity to sell yourself again. Yeah. So, you try to include your qualities to the position that you're interviewing for. Maybe you can just, we'll be sharing this PPT with you, you can read it out. Now, imagine that you have got an offer. Now it's important to ask yourself certain questions. The first is, do you really want this job? Or are any external factors pushing you to take this job? You need to identify that. Second is, do you feel overqualified or underqualified for this job? That is the second question. And the third is, do you need to visit the office and the workplace to know more before taking up this offer? All right. So before you jump into getting into that position, you need to ask yourself certain questions why you really want to join or why you really want this job. So these questions will really help you get an idea. What are the main takeaways from this session? You have to research about the company. You have to have self assessment. You need to understand your CV, the job description, your cover letter. During the interview or as pre-interview preparation, you have to anticipate certain questions, but do not memorize them. And for behavioral questions, you could use a star method. Yeah. You should also be prepared with some questions that you can ask the interviewer or your employer to know more about the company and the job position. During the interview, be confident, work on your gestures, articulate well, and most importantly, match the energy of the interviewers. It's kind of a conversation, right? And it's important that you carefully consider your options. You have to ask yourself the questions why you really need this job. Should you really join this? You can ask questions to yourself to get a clear picture of the situation. All right. So, yes, I think we are done for the day with this session. I hope this was really helpful to you and useful. Do you have any questions? Can you just type it out? Maybe if we can have.
Hello, ma'am. May I ask?
Yes.
Ma'am, actually, I pass out. I'm a BTech pass out in 2017 in
Mm-hmm.
electronics and instrumentation engineering. And
Mm-hmm.
after that, I did a job in electronics domain for 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I moved to e-commerce domain. And I did that job for 2.5 years. And
Mm-hmm.
then I got married. Uh, and now I am studying this data science, and I want to move in this data science domain. Uh, so how will mm, how I will say that to the interviewer when they will ask me that why are you changing your domain? Like this is a big change from from engineering domain to e-commerce domain. Actually,
Uh,
this e-commerce job I didn't want to do that, but due to some family background, I had to do that job, and that's why I left that job, and I'm starting like a freshers in data science domain. So
yeah.
how will I tell that?
I think this question, I think only you could answer this question. Like, why did you have to change from one particular domain to another? You have to identify what is it that made you change to a different domain. Yeah.
Okay,
If something that interested you, I think you need to identify that part of.
okay,
All right.
okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, may I ask one question?
Yes.
Ma'am, is it important to send a thank you mail after the interview,
Exactly.
or
Yes.
is it any helpful?
It will be really helpful if you, I mean, like right after the interview, you can show your gratitude. You can say thank you to the interviewer. That will really work.
Okay, ma'am.
I hope I answered somebody's question about weakness, how to explain that, right? Shall we call it a day then?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.